Welcome back to the show, everyone. Our next guest is joining us, and people have told me, and not a few people, quite a few people have told me that I look like our next guest.
There's two of you.
I should be so lucky.
I'm going to say that one of them is really, really, really smart. Jay Ingram is joining us now. Of course, you'll recognize him from the Daily Planet. He has a brand new book, Daily Planet, the ultimate book of everyday science. How are you, Jay?
Are you saying he's really a lot smarter than I am? That's not a good way to try.
I know, that's kind of weird, isn't it? The ultimate book, Jay. This is a big title.
Quite honestly, it's kind of a corporate title, right? The word ultimate, everybody likes that word. Everyday science, that feels friendly. Honestly, I think that Penguin Books and Discovery got together and said, let's make a title. I had nothing to do with that.
Well, you know what? My favorite chapter was, I learned a lot reading it last night, even though I'm usually not one to do that. But my favorite chapter was about you and your faithful companion, your dog, that defies your scientific experiments
about Gerald Walker
all the time.
Well, Gerald and my dog.
Your faithful companion, Gerald Walker.
They're kind of similar. They play a similar role in my life,
actually. Tell us
actually.
about Buster.
Well, Buster's a 15-year-old standard poodle, and anytime there's any science published, any analysis of dog behavior, we trot Buster out to act it out, and he never does what they say dogs do.
And that's why I love him.
There was a thing suggesting, you know how yawns are contagious, right?
Yeah.
I start yawning, you'll yawn.
I actually did yawn right at the part in that chapter where it says you'll yawn.
No, unless apparently you're a psychopath, and it'll be
it's
no
an
yawning.
amazing.
But it's supposed to work on dogs too?
Well, so this report said. So I took Buster out, and there's a picture of him in the book. I took him out in this little park and yawned in his face about 15 times. And he just kind of looked at me. What is he doing? Wanting food, of course. That's what they always do. And but I was gratified about 6 months later to see another report saying we've tried to replicate that first one,
doesn't work.
and it doesn't work.
Buster's no fool.
Jay, but this is all indicative of what you've done so well throughout your career and what you do so well on the show, which is taking science, making it approachable, and giving people that entry point to really fascinating ideas.
Well, it's so important to have because, you know, I'm afraid it's true that people still have a kind of science and math anxiety, and they feel like it's really, and a lot of it is, kind of abstruse and hard to get a hold of. And yet, the essential pieces of science, I think, are understandable.
Yeah.
And so in Daily Planet, we do a lot of stuff in Daily Planet that you wouldn't call science, really.
But I like how you correlate that into, it's not science, but it has that scientific spark to it, so that creativity.
That's totally right. And you see, I think if you meet somebody who's ingenious, curious, and does something with those qualities, like a guy who builds a dining room table that'll go 200 kilometers an hour, I mean, that won't get written up in a science journal, but that guy has some of these sort of engineering, technological, scientific qualities. Yeah. And I think it's all fair game.
And it's fun to hear about science when it is about fun things.
And even the scientists like it, right?
Yes, because they like to nerd out.
I think there are probably some kind of highbrow scientists who think Daily Planet is too lowbrow. But then I find out that they watch anyway. And what do they like? They like the 200-kilometer-an-hour dining room table.
Okay, I wanted to talk about something. I mean, there's so many fascinating things in the book. Something I had never heard of before called mantis shrimp.
Yeah, actually a poorly named animal because it's not a mantis nor is it a shrimp.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's a crustacean. They can get up to a foot long, so they're actually pretty substantial animals. And they have the most amazing, I don't know exactly what to call it. It's like a striking appendage. And they have two of them, which they sort of fold up under them like this.
Good job.
And then they latch it in place. And then they exert a huge amount of tension on it. When they release the latch, the thing comes out like this. And there's a picture in the book of it knocking a piece off a snail shell, a big, hard-shelled snail. You can see the piece just floating.
So that it can get inside?
Yeah, because they prey on really hard-shelled animals. And there's another picture taken from looking through the aquarium wall, and the thing has just cracked the aquarium glass.
So of course it's got velocity and force from what the arm does, but the fascinating thing is the way it moves water and the amount of force.
It goes so fast that it creates these little bubbles which immediately collapse, and in collapsing, they release a huge amount of energy. Like you can actually hear and see light from these bubbles. And so some poor snail, first of all,
poor guy.
wham, like his shell. Where's my shell? And then he gets nailed with the force of these bubbles. And the mantis shrimps themselves, you can see little pits on the surface of their strikers, which people think are damage from the bubbles that they themselves create.
Strong little guy.
You know, part of the joy, I think, maybe of what you do, and I know as a viewer watching it, is the progression of science, that inevitability of the march forward, you know, that expansion of knowledge. And it's inspirational to see people working at this every single day, whether it's some hobbyist or whether it's, you know, hardcore science.
And persistence is a quality I should have mentioned earlier, along with ingenuity, inventiveness, curiosity, because that's what you need if you're going to be a backyard inventor.
Yeah.
Like we have a guy in the book who has figured out how to move giant piece of concrete columns.
Oh, the Stonehenge.
Yeah, so he's building Stonehenge in his own backyard. And these are like 19,000 pounds, and he doesn't use any electrical or gas-powered or propane-powered tools.
It's crazy.
He just uses ropes and wedges and, you know,
And pebbles, like, to actually move
He
the
can
slab.
spin a giant piece of concrete he can actually spin it and move it along. He could move it along the studio floor just with 2 pebbles. You know, you take one pebble out and then you swing
He's
it.
almost got Stonehenge
How many
happening.
of these stories start out coming across your desk as stories about science, about ingenuity, and end up being partly stories about people and the people that are driving these efforts?
I think they're just about all about people.
Yeah.
Now, even, but you know, maybe not quite, because a mantis shrimp is in itself a fascinating organism. But so are the people who work on it. But you know, TV, as you guys know, is all about people, really, and that's what makes it interesting, and that's what makes Stonehenge guy. Even though, honestly, as a TV personality, he's not dramatic or flamboyant.
Yeah.
But when you see him doing what he does,
It's fascinating.
It's bizarre.
Bizarre is the right word.
It's like watching Gerald Walker again. I brought him up twice, but he has a funny, strange. He has a weird sense of humor, the guy.
He is incredible, really. You know, I like to give him his due. He is the best researched physics demo guy I've ever worked with. When he says anything about science, you can just take it to the bank.
Yeah.
Now, the rest of the stuff is mostly bull, right? But the science is impeccable. And we just recently did a show to commemorate our 15th anniversary, like the book does.
Right.
And he did this famous trick of his where he plunges his hand into molten lead.
It's crazy.
And I was standing right beside him, right? And he took his, so I'll do it quickly. If you just dip your hand into water, then the water turns instantly to steam when you go into the lead, because it's 320 degrees Celsius. And that little layer of steam protects you for that moment, as long as you do it like that.
You just got to be fast.
But he took his hand out, and I could see little bits of lead under his fingernails.
Ouch.
Yeah, no kidding. And he said, "Oh, no, I'm okay." Then I looked at my pants, and there are little bits of molten lead all over my pants.
Oh, my Lord.
No, it's a seriously dangerous trick. But the guy is so dedicated to doing dramatic demos that he still does it.
Sometimes you just got to take the pain.
I love it.
Yeah,
For the science.
yeah, exactly.
It's a brilliant
It
show.
is a
It's
great book. 15 years, Daily Planet. You can pick up the ultimate book of everyday science. And careful, you might learn something, even if you didn't mean to.
Thank you, Jay. And I just want to mention that you are a devilishly handsome man.
Yeah, you know, I noticed when oh, right, you just said that.
There we go. We're going to take a break and come back with more on Urban Rush after this. Don't forget to check out the Daily Planet Discovery Canada weekdays at 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. See you in a second.
Thanks again, Jay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay.